All right, we're on 4.3 or 4.4 lesson 3, and today we are talking about I can identify, define, and draw perpendicular lines. Okay, so perpendicular is going to be lines that intersect to make 90-degree angles or right angles. Okay, so an example of that would be a line going straight up, or a ray, and a line going across. What happens is that where it hits makes 90 degrees. So intersecting lines is going to be everything else. So that's going to be lines that intersect that don't have 90 degrees. So think of how you can draw two lines that intersect that don't have 90 degrees. So I would draw like an X, really narrow X, where none of my lines intersecting is going to make 90 degrees. They're going to be acute and obtuse angles. Another one we're going to see that when we go to draw our lines today is the word diagonal. So these are going to be straight lines that join two opposite corners. And so we did this in our application problem. So an example of that was like we had our shape in our application problem that looked like a rectangle, and these lines that go across would be diagonal. They're going to opposite corners of that straight shape. Okay, so these are the words we're going to be using today. Perpendicular, biggest thing, 90-degree angles when we're doing perpendicular. Everything else are going to be intersecting lines. They're just going to make angles that are not 90 degrees. And then we're going to be looking at some diagonal lines going across some shapes. So let's draw some perpendicular lines for problem number 1. Okay. So we're going to draw a figure. I'm going to draw a figure going straight down and straight across. I'm going to label it A on the top, C on the bottom, B on the side for a point, D on the side point, and the one in the middle is going to be my E. So what do we notice about this, the angles that I've made where these two lines intersect? Okay, so we should see that in here we are making right angles, and I'm going to use a L to show these right angles in the box. So because I have this line going through AC and BD, they're making a perpendicular. These are perpendicular lines because I have 90 degrees angles inside where they cross. So this gets labeled as perpendicular. So my perpendicular lines would be AC and BD. Oops, BD. So let's do an example of lines that would intersect that are not perpendicular, so just intersecting lines. So I'm going to draw a very narrow X. And we can see right here, none of my angles are making that L of 90 degrees. So instead I get an acute angle, obtuse angle, obtuse angle. So these are going to be just intersecting lines. We can also look at some letters and talk about what kind of lines these would be. So let's write down these capital letters. T, L and V? We're going to decide if they're perpendicular or are they intersecting. So looking at T, let's pretend it just kept going on up here. They go across. Would this be intersecting or would it be perpendicular? So we should say, I can see that they cross and make 90 degrees. So this is going to be perpendicular. What about L? This line kept going this way and this line kept going this way. Would this be perpendicular or intersecting lines? Should we get there? Perpendicular, right? They make this 90 degrees. They connect nice. And then my V, let's say this line kept going up, kept going down. Would these be perpendicular or intersecting? So for this one, we should say it's not making any 90 degrees, so this is going to be an intersecting line. So really today we're just identifying if it's perpendicular or identifying if it's intersecting. All right, on problem number 2, we're going to find a way to label perpendicular lines. So on this whole page, you have this whole room, and you can use a ruler if you have one at home or a book or anything straight. I'm going to draw 2 lines, and I want them to be perpendicular. So I'm going to draw one that goes straight on the bottom. I can even use my page from underneath. And then I'm going to make a little line here where my 90 degree is on my compass, or on my, oh my gosh, I can't think of the name right now. On my protractor to see where I'm going to draw the line going up. So I want it to be 90 degrees. So I'm going to make sure I draw straight up like this. So here I have 90 degree angles. So I know these lines are perpendicular. Okay, so now what I want you to do is just label these lines. You can label it whatever you want to. I'm going to label my line as, this one's going to be an AC line. And I'm going to call this ray, or this maybe B and D. Okay? So I'm purposely making perpendicular lines. I see that they make 90 degree angles. Together they make that 180 straight angle. So when we're labeling this is how we're going to label it. We're going to look at our 2 lines. I'm looking from where my line starts to where my next point is on the other side. So this line would be AC. And my line going up and down would be D and B. Okay, and when we're labeling these as being perpendicular, we're just going to draw a perpendicular line that looks just like it. So anytime we have perpendicular, we're going to label it with this one. We're saying AC is perpendicular to DB, and that's what this symbol means. So this equals perpendicular. So tomorrow when we come in, oops, I forgot. We got to put line segment. Oh, this one, AC was a line. This one was a ray. So I'm going to label them accordingly. So when we come in tomorrow, we're going to be labeling these. All right, that is the end of our notes, and I will see you guys tomorrow.